It's good to be here and good to get to talk about the history of the school. School, university, I don't know exactly which one you want to use. I think the school probably would like to use university. It sounds good. But we want to talk a little bit about the past. It is good to look at our past. It is good to learn from the past. And hopefully we don't do the same things over again that was done by the other generations, but we generally do. We don't learn our lessons, but we need to learn our lessons from the past. The school here has a great past. It has a great thing. I fully believe, and this is I know a personal opinion, that God has intended for a place to be in the Florence area to teach God's Word to people to go out and teach to others. If you look back at the history, I don't see how you can see anything different than that, because it was there. This area has been a great place to teach the gospel to other people. Someone asked the question, is it because of all the churches that are here? I don't know. That's something for somebody else to figure out. I'm going to look at some of the history. I'm going to look at that as far as I'm concerned. I'm going over a lot of area and missing a lot of stuff. Wayne is more detailed in his understanding of it and helps us to see that. And it's great that we have people like that put that down so that we can look at it for the future. And I really appreciate Wayne doing that. I fussed at him in the years gone by. Put this down. Don't let it go. You don't need to let this pass. It's very important that you understand where we came from. T.B. Larimore in 1871 moved to this area and started a school to train people to preach the gospel. That's what he wanted to do. And it had a great effect on the area here. That university, college lasted for about 17 years from what I can find, 17 years from what I can find. And it trained many people to go out and preach and teach the gospel, and they did that. It wasn't something that was going to change the world per se, but it had the ability to change the world. It changed the lives of other people. In 1965, a group of people met over at Mars Hill, and they wanted to start a school to train people to teach the gospel. Both, I think, men and women, mainly men at that time, but men and women now, and certainly that is a great thing. They worked very hard at doing that. There's a lot of legal stuff, a lot of things that you have to do to get a school started or university started, and they started all of that. Southeastern Institute of the Bible was started. I was able to come here, and I went to Freed Hardeman for a little while, but then left and met Malcolm Hill in Mableton, Georgia, and he was talking about starting a school in Florence. And so Lynn and I came up here, looked at it, decided we wanted to come, and so we brought two little old boys with us up here, and were able to start the school and go to school. The first time I came on campus, they said, "This is Albert Hill," and I thought, what have we got ourselves into? Because Albert Hill came out, debater, preacher, all this stuff. He had on a pair of blue jeans and a t-shirt that was wet with sweat. He was sweating. Had a cowboy hat on that I think the bull sat on for about 3 days. It looked awful. He had a tool belt on. They were working on the school, trying to get it ready. This is the one across the track. They were working very hard, and they tried to do the best they could to have a place so that we could come and have our classes. We didn't have large classes. There was 5 of us really that started, and several others that worked in there from time to time, but most of the time it was there. But Albert Hill proved to be a great, great man. He decided to help people to understand more about God's Word, and he wanted to do that. A great heart and a great person. Many people donated their time, their effort, and their energy to be able to get that building over there started and going. You don't realize when you start talking at that time, say $50,000, $60,000 to build a building and kind of equip that thing. That's a lot of money to come up with, and people had to be willing to donate to do that. And the area here was very good at doing that. Sister Alexander, a great lady. I hope you go see some of the history down here. She was a very gracious lady. She gave the property there. I think she gave the property here. I'm not sure about that, so just leave that up in the air if you would. But she was one who wanted to help people, and she was so kind about doing that. Ladies have had a great deal to do with this university and its existence, and they continue to do that. We don't realize what all they do in helping us. I did want to mention some of the teachers. I know I'm going to leave some out, but this is just the names I could come up with and think about. But men like Malcolm Hill, Albert Hill, Brother A.R. Hill, Brother Charles Coyle, Barry Anderson, Brother Sanderson, Lamar Plunkett and Bob Plunkett, Bob Bryson, Tom Brown, Willard Powell, Basil Overton, Dennis Jones, David Underwood, Harvey Starling, Jerry Humphreys, Rod Tate, Alan Bryan, Darrell Davis, Elvis Hufford, Buddy Baker, Cecil May Jr., Harold Bellamy, Jim Massey, and Prentice Spivey, David Short, Curtis Sampley, Jerry Davidson, George and Sarah Goldman, and I think they're a permanent fixture here. They're still here, still working, and we appreciate them in that. Sarah Goldman, Charlie Payne, Jack Wilhelm, and I know I'm leaving out a lot of other people, and sorry about that, but you get my age, you don't remember much anyhow, and it doesn't stay when you put it in there, it falls out. But we appreciate what they did, and I know there's others that I'm not mentioning, but we do want to remember those. And I think some of the great heroes are those that were the secretaries here. Sister Wilma Huffaker, her health is not doing good right now, so we remember her. And I just almost guarantee you, if she was where she could, she would be here this week and rejoicing and seeing how far the school has gone and how much the school is affecting other people. Helen Parker was a great lady that worked here too, and also we have others, Helen Miles and other ladies that worked in there doing things. So important for us to have that. In reading Brother Shuffett's book, and if you haven't read that, it is one that is very informative and very detailed. And Wayne got a lot of the material up for Brother Shuffett. He was able to take it and put it in a form that is just like a story being told. And so read that and know where you came from and know about the school here. But it was said that Brother Cole told the bookkeepers, now listen, write a check to all the people and pay their salaries before you pay mine. See, starting a school, a Christian university, a Christian school is kind of like some old cars I had. You could get them to go if you push them, but if you ever stop, they'd roll up back on the top of you. Sometimes people think they've got all the money in the world, and no, they don't. They are getting by and trying to do, because when you advance something, it takes a lot to do that. And so we appreciate the people that have raised money here, Philip and Dennis and Leon and other people that have worked very, very hard in raising money so that this school could have what it has today and be what it is today. Brother Coyle, and certainly we need to thank him for what he's done, and the Coyle family. But I think about Brother Coyle. He's working with the Salem Church and preaching in meetings all over the country, and a lot of that had to stop, and that was kind of the way he was making his living to a great extent. But a lot of that had to stop because he was here working with the school and doing that. And we don't know the financial sacrifice that some of these teachers have made and are making to be able to work here with this school. And so we're grateful for that. I'm grateful for their wives and their children, because they were ones that allowed them to be able to do that, allowed them to be able to come and be here and work. And some of them sacrificed a great deal. And so I appreciate those preachers' wives for what they were doing and how they were accomplishing that. When you start talking about women, this school is built on the back of a lot of great women. The IBC women, I think, last time I heard, it was a little over $1 million or something like that they had given. And you say, oh, well, that's a lot of money, but it's not that much in the world we live in today. But this is selling pies and cakes and food and rummage sales, everything else, to try to do it during our workshops that we had. Those ladies were in there cooking meals and selling them, and that money was going back into the school. And you see people come up here and give checks for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, and you see how hard they work to get that. And so I certainly appreciate those ladies and what they did. And Sister Overton was one of the sweetest people you could ever meet. Her and Basil were just the best people. They were so kind. They didn't know how good they really were. Brother Overton had a lot of advice. Some of it was about mules. I remember sitting in the cafeteria and he talking about, a mule story. He said, everybody's got a mule story. And is Jim Collins in here? Don't tell him I said this. Jim said, I don't have a mule story. He said, Brother Overton said, everybody's got a mule story. Well, we sat there and talked a little bit, and Jim said, I knew this guy had a mule. Brother Overton looked at him and said, I told you. Everybody's got a mule story. Now, I don't know if you've got a mule story nowadays. We don't deal with mules that much anymore. But the kindness that they had of helping us and letting us know some things. And Brother Overton, I kind of laugh at, he had a class one time and went in with his head wrapped up. And the students started saying, what's wrong? What's wrong? He said, oh, I had this growth taken off my head. I had to go get it removed. And they said, oh, was it painful? He said, no, I got a haircut. And he took the bandages off. But he had the greatest sense of humor about things. And I mentioned to him one time, I got some of the Freed Hardeman lectures, a lesson that he had presented in 1936. And this was in the 70s and 80s. And I said, I was reading one of your lessons. He said, yes, and this is what it was. He told me every point of that whole lesson. I can't remember what I preached last week, much less 36, 40, 50 years ago. But he could. He had that kind of mind. He was a great scholar. The workshops that were here were great things. I remember they had tents across the back here as you're going down toward the library. We probably had over 100 vendors in there, books stacked up real high, all that stuff, people selling different things in there, and both those tents full. Also with a stream of water running right down through the middle of it. It did not rain for every workshop at IBC at that time. There might have been one or two that it didn't rain at, but it seemed like it rained at every one of them. It wasn't that bad, but it was. But those things, even though you were trying to figure out what do we do, how do we make this better, it was better, and it is better. And we look back on it now, and we see that. And there'll be things that you'll look back on at the time you're in school here, and you'll rejoice in that. Enjoy those things while you're here, because they go by so very fast. The bus program, it basically started around here with a lot of people. I can remember probably 60, 70, 80 buses. I mean big buses coming from all over California, Texas, and all different places. I mean just all over. And people literally coming from all over the world here for the workshops. I think some have attributed IBC at that time, and I'm using that term for that time, of starting some of the workshops. And we had 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people who you talk to. If you talk to Alan Bryan, it's probably 10,000. He always blew the figures up a lot more, I think. But it was a good thing, and it was a wonderful thing to see all these people here learning and finding out about this. But not just this school, but you see the influence of Mars Hill School. They used to have training schools over there where they'd have several thousand people to come in to be trained. And that's the reason I say I think God wants a school here to train people to preach. Mars Hill's over here does a fabulous job. A good sister of us that helps us here. And also we try to help them as much as we can. But you see all these things, and you think about all these things, and you think about the effect that this school has had on our brotherhood, and certainly it has been a great thing. You think about things that have happened. I think about Bob Plunkett and his wife passed just a few weeks ago, and we're sorry about that. But he took all of us as students, and you could get most of us in one car, to go over to his library. And he said, you're going to be going out to places where you're not going to have a library. He said, you need to buy your books and set up your library so you can research anything you want to do. Now, nowadays you've got the internet, and you can take that and go everywhere. But I appreciated him for that, showing us those things and helping us to understand about that. Most of the teachers here had been preachers in different places all over. They were able to help you to deal with some of the things that they had to deal with. They would talk about some of the problems that they faced and how they had handled it, or maybe how they should have handled it. They didn't handle it the right way, and they were quick to tell you that. I didn't do this the right way, but they had that influence there to help us. And you know, I'm so thrilled at the professors that we have at this university right now. We've got some of the best in the brotherhood. They do a fabulous job, and maybe you don't realize that now, but you will in the future. But they do such a great job, and I appreciate them taking their time and their energy to come here and to help this school to be the school that it is, this university to be the university that it is, and we appreciate them. In 1972, we had graduation. There were 5 of us. That's all it was. Where's J.R. Ballantyne? Where you at? Oh, J.R.'s back there. He's this older guy back here in the back. He was one of the graduates at that time, and we had a good time too. We enjoyed it. You had Bill Lamb and Larry Giles and J.R. and Ken Chambers and myself. I always tell people I was the 5th in my class. And then they say, well, how many was in the class? And I said, I don't want to talk about that. But I was the 5th in my class. And all of these went out and preached for a period of time. Some retired, some quit earlier doing other things, and so we appreciate them and the work that they did and how that they blessed everybody. We are blessed now with Brother Brothers coming to help the school to go on and advance more and to do more. Encourage him. Let him know you appreciate what he's doing, because it is a sacrifice to come here. We don't know the work that's done behind, and everybody has to do to get the school going, to keep it operating. But I really try to go around and thank people for what they do here, because they need that encouragement. They need that lifting up. Those times and problems and difficulties, you're going to have them. They're always been here. It's always going to be. But some of those problems and difficulties give us faith to go on. God gives us a book called the Bible, and what it really is a book about the family of God, and God explaining that. And God has recorded the past, to help us to see better the future and understand that. We have a past, we need to know that, but we also have a great future too. This school is not going under. It's not going to close anytime soon, I don't think. If it does, it's done a great work already, but it's not going to do that. The Brothers is going to help it, and so we appreciate all that they've done. You know, if you go to a place where they don't have any problems, it's usually a graveyard. There's no life there either. You go where life is. You go to the place where children are born, and you see that. If you want a church to survive, you've got to have those young people coming on to give it life, and to give those old people something in the future that they can look to. This place is a birthing place. It is a place where people are born to learn and study and find out. The studying that you're doing now is not what you're going to be doing basically in the future. You're being directed now in your study. To me, a professor's job is to train you how to study. Because when you leave here, that's when you're really going to get to study. And that's when it really, really is great to get in that office or get at home or wherever it's at, and you're researching this and researching that and looking at this, looking at that, and you think, I appreciate those professors that help me learn how to do that. And they're not just giving you knowledge. They're training you for the future to be able to go on. So this is a birthing place. This is a place where others are going to come, and encourage them. Encourage anybody you can to do this. Somebody said, I've had preachers who tell me, I don't encourage people to preach. Said, there's problems. Let me tell you something. There's always problems. But that's not the worst thing in the world. The worst thing in the world if you quit before you even start. Problems are there. That's great. But have you ever thought about it? Your problems help you to be stronger, and you have a greater faith because of that. Because you learn that you can't trust in other people all the time. You can't trust in circumstances. What you've got to do is trust in God. And He never will leave us. He'll always be there. He always has. Sometimes we don't see Him, but He's always there. Like a parent that's watching over their children, God's watching over us. And He's got a lot for us, a lot of great blessings, a lot of great things to do. So enjoy what you have. Enjoy looking at the past, but enjoy the future. The past is something that's good to look at, but the future's a thing we need to live in. And don't discount what you can do. Old Testament says God blowed on it. It means it. I tell people it's kind of like a balloon where God takes it. It's all wrinkled, it's all messed up, but God can blow it up and make it a big thing. And He can in your life. Don't discount what you know. I came here as an old Georgia boy that I knew those people in those classes knew 100% more than I did. But I got to preach. That's all I wanted to do. That's what Brother Carl wanted, was people just to go out and teach the gospel to others. And I wonder if it is that we get the privilege of doing that. And it is a privilege. Thank you.